Liberals, the NDP can't offer?
Well, first and foremost, no whip votes. The only vote that should be whipped is the budget. And the only bill that should be an omnibus is the budget. Because it amends various pieces of funding formulas and so on and so forth. Not having a whip vote means that the leader or the backroom boys have no control over me, and I will be able to stand up and represent my constituents. If something comes down the pipe that is unconstitutional, I can call them out on it, even if it's in my own party.
Have you seen this in action in the Trillium Party? Have they ever really stood up for their constituents?
Oh, you betcha.
Trillium Party of Ontario, we believe in honest, real, effective, simple solutions that are not going to benefit us as the MPPs or us as the party. Our solutions are based on the best interests of the people of Ontario. So I ask the people of Hastings County support me, because I will go to Queen's Park and I will stand up for what's right for not only you, but for Ontario. And we will bring the jobs back to Ontario.
Well, there was another little thing we did last fall. It seemed like a little thing at the time, but we've gotten a lot of very positive response. And it's Bill 100, called an Act Respecting Identification of Veterans. This would be military veterans. So what it does, just one little thing, it would put the word veteran on a driver's license and highlight it in bright yellow. And what that would do, it would let the general public know when they see somebody's driver's license that this man is a military veteran. And we would like Canadians, I think most Canadians would like to know when they're speaking to a veteran. I think they should know that. And the reason we would want to know that is to be able to say to that veteran, thank you. Thank you for what you do. You fight for our freedom, and we have a wonderful country here in Canada because we have freedom. We don't have wars on our soil. We have a constitution that defines our rights. We are a land where we live by the rule of law, and that gives us the freedom to live and play and work with our families in our communities the way we want. It's the best country in the world because we have freedom. But freedom wasn't free. It never has been. It was hard fought for in battlefields over centuries, heated debates in parliaments over centuries, and that's part of our British Christian.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of Trillium Talk TV. We're here live with the leader of the Trillium Party, Mr. Bob Yachik, and our candidate from Lambton, Kent, Middlesex, Mr. Brian Everett. Welcome, everybody. Tonight, we're going to be discussing several things going on in the world of politics here in Ontario, with the election coming up on June the 7th. So everybody, if you haven't already voted, make sure you have that date marked on your calendar so you can get out there and support us here at the Trillium Party. And at least, very least, please do get out and exercise your democratic right and vote. Okay, absolutely. So tonight we'll start out with a simple question to Brian. I'd like Brian to introduce himself and talk a little bit about himself and what he's doing here with the Trillium Party.
Well, hi everybody. It's nice to be here with the leader and you, John. I've been getting tremendous support from the Trillium Party, and I thank you both for that throughout the campaign. You two have been extremely generous with your time for me, and I want to get that out there. It has led to me getting a lot more people behind me. You guys have been essential in my campaign, and I thank you both for that.
How's it going out there in the campaign trail, Brian?
Well, Bob, I can't be happier. I couldn't imagine when I threw my hat in the ring how much support I would have gotten from my constituents, and it's about what we stand for, and it's resonating in Lambton, Kent, Middlesex. I was at the Raceway, Dresden Raceway, their opening day the other day on Sunday, and I was getting people that I've never met before coming up to me in the wicket lines and the bet lines talking about that they were going to vote for me. I didn't even have a clue who they were. I felt so proud, and I believe it's because of the message that we're putting out there about true democracy. And I think people are tired, and they're tired of dealing with the options that they've had in the past, where they select someone and they don't come back for 4 years, and there's nothing to say in between. So it's been going great. I've literally been having the time of my life, being able to get the points out for the people. I've met so many people in the riding, and I've met people who are having good times, but a lot of people who are, quite frankly, not having such a good time, and they're ready for change.
Well, that's very good to hear. So I presume that you're out at the doors as much as you possibly can be, because that's what all good candidates are doing these days. What are you hearing at the doors when you're approaching people?
Well, I'm hearing a lot about our healthcare system. Number one, I have a rural riding, so we have small hospitals in my riding, and a growing senior demographic with the boomers, and people are worried. They're worried about their healthcare system. They're worried about money that's getting put into the smaller communities such as Wallaceburg. There's been a struggle in Wallaceburg in my riding for 20 years now, it seems, to keep the hospital open, and government after government seems to give some little subtle hints that they're going to keep it open, but they keep the people walking on eggshells. They have no plan.
So there's no stability anymore. And this has been going, I think, if you don't mind me interjecting here, this is a trend I've been hearing from so many of our candidates in rural areas. It's like there's a war against rural Ontario. It's like they're closing the schools, they're closing the medical systems, they're closing the transportation systems everywhere. And basically it's saying, rural Ontario, you're not welcome. We care about one thing and one thing only, and it seems to be Toronto.
Well, and Bob, I'd agree with that. It's always about Toronto. We're seeing it again in this election, folks, that you look at the PCs, you look at the NDP. As far as I'm concerned, the Liberals are off the map. They're not doing.
Ouch! That's cold.
Well,
bro.
it's cold,
That's
but
cold.
it's cold. But in my riding, I'm telling you, people are quite upset. The signage isn't even out and about in the area. It's the first time that I've ever seen that. I would have expected them to come to at least out to some debates and face the public. They've chosen not to do that, and to me, that's at their own peril.
And that seems to be happening all over Ontario. We see various news reports, and I know certainly where I'm running in Brampton, not only have I not been invited to any of the debates so that I can't participate, but you get sporadic party involvement where there's certain debates where certain members of the government will show up, certain candidates will show up. If they happen to be with a group that is favorable to their party, they'll show up. But if they know they're going to get lambasted, they just don't show up. For instance, the Concerned Ontario Doctors, they've had debates all across the GTA, and you get sometimes the PCs show up, sometimes they don't. The Liberals have not shown up to any of them. The NDP hasn't shown up to any of them simply because they're just going to get killed by these Concerned Ontario Doctors.
Ontario Doctors, they come out. They've been having this series of debates, and we've gone to some of them, and it's literally looking for concern, trying to figure out what our positions on healthcare. The doctors come out and they support PCs right now. They come out and I think they officially pushing support for this PC. Did you know that it was our MPP, Jack McLaren? He was the only one that voted against the bill that allowed the most invasive breach of privacy to the doctors. There was a bill, and I forget the number. Maybe John, you
41.
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
Bill 41. No one knows numbers for the bill, but what this bill said, there's zero tolerance for doctors, and there was had a concern regarding some sort of a sexual assault or something like that. No, not a single person, and I'm sure in Canada, is for sexual assault. But what is not also right is this knee-jerk reaction where they say no part of a doctor's life should be left secret or quiet. You know, I don't know. Let's suppose a doctor, when he was young in his teens or something, was charged with drunk driving. Why is that necessary to be up there? Do you think the politicians would have voted for that same bill if it said politicians suffer the same scrutiny? Everything. They wouldn't have.
No, not likely. And I guess when it comes to the healthcare system, what I've been finding, segue back to it, is people want money to the front line. You know, folks, I always say that the public is the boss, and at the Trillium Party, we believe that. And that's why we have that referendum on important issues. But the fact of the matter is there's a whole lot of waste happening in the mid to upper level management areas in the LHINs. As far as I'm concerned, we need to rein that in. But the fact of the matter is that money and those funds need to be put to the doctors and nurses. In fact, I've been a champion in our riding to support the nurses. It's one of my main issues because I believe that the boss, which is the public, deserve the best service. We don't need commercials shot in our hospitals. I've seen it happen when the nurses are running around doing double time. We need the money to the frontline workers. Those are the people that know what's going on. These people that are in mid-management, as far as I'm concerned, some of them have come back to the trough. They've maybe retired out of the industry, and it's almost like a country club. And I said in a debate in Wallaceburg that if your idea of a day's work is 3 emails and a half-hour PowerPoint presentation, a Trillium Party MPP is going to be watching for you. And that's where we're going to save the money.
Wow,
and that's
wow.
that's exactly what we need to do, guys. And we know that. We've discussed it. And that's part of the healthcare problem is everybody seems to be at the trough, and the money's not going out to the people who need it, which is the nurses, doctors, to support the people.
The Trillium Party of Ontario. The Trillium Party of Ontario has simply the best thought-out plan for fixing our health care. It's a model where we effectively use, instead of our OHIP card, we use the equivalent of a credit card system.
Smart card.
It's modeled after the #1 healthcare system in the world. And you know, you might not believe it, but it is Taiwan. The #1 satisfaction, the most advanced medicine is in Taiwan. And with that system, it goes like this. So you get your health card, and it's broken down. So let's say you're getting a broken leg. So you get a broken leg, and you go to the hospital there, and then you go through triage. That's so much money. And then you go through the doctor resetting it, and then you got the guy that sets the cast. Anyways, your health statement is broken down with what every component of that costs. And then at the end of the month, you get a statement. So, John, you might get a statement that says, it looks like my broken leg cost $16,226. And then what happened? And you might have that done at Brampton General Hospital. But then somebody in the accounting area looks and says, well, how come the ones in South Lake Hospital, Newmarket, only cost $9,260? There may be a good reason. There may be. But now the focus is in finding that. And then there's one other benefit, and it's a serious concern in our province. So you look at your broken leg cost $16,000, and you look, I don't have a broken leg. How is this possible? Fraud. That means your health fraud. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I know my doctor, he told me straight up that that he says, I'm guessing, Bob, we talk quite often about politics because he knows I'm in it and he has concern. He says, I bet you 1 or 2 out of 10 of my patients, it's not their health card that I'm seeing when I get it. And I said, well, you don't have to serve them if you do. He says, no, I can withdraw services. But he said, Bob, sure than blazes, one of these people is going to have a serious ailment and they're going to maybe even perhaps die. I'm going to get sued and I'm going to lose my license. He says, I have no choice but to look after them. And he says, but with our system, you're going to find that fraud real fast. The card's going to be canceled instantly, and you're going to get a cost benefit. It's going to move money right down to the front services because this healthcare system where all you're doing is just giving a lump sum to every hospital. Have you ever seen an organization that didn't spend its entire budget?
No, they usually, any government agency that I've seen, and it's been explained to me many times by various plant managers that I've ever dealt with doing budgets, they are going to spend every single penny
And
try to get
for it.
more.
Yeah,
Try to get
exactly.
That's
more.
right. And we've seen that even in the industry I'm involved in. That's what they do. They run the budget. They're given a certain amount of money. They know if they don't spend it, they'll get less. So they just go out and they spend it. I consider it at the end of the day a waste, but it's the way they budget things, and it's actually kind of a shame if you think about it. How do you attack that? I don't
Just
know.
like what we just said.
You're right.
Just like what.
You're right.
And something. I'm sorry.
Well, like I say, this sounds sort of like a good segue into the next question that I have, and that is, how is the NDP's proposal to turn Ontario into a sanctuary province going to affect our healthcare?
Oh, this sounds like I just stepped into some landmine, minefield in a foreign country.
In my riding, actually, from the doors I'm knocking on and the people I'm talking to, and I am in a rural riding, people can see through this proposal. It's a one-liner on page 11 in the NDP's book, and it comes out and says the NDP will declare Ontario a sanctuary province. But there's no parameters. Like we all know, the Trillium Party and people in Ontario, Canada in general, are very generous. And that's
well,
not...
except for John Grant.
Well, maybe not John
Scottish,
Grant.
like, Scottish, for crying out loud.
But that being said, there's no parameters on it. So that blanket statement, like I live in an area where we have border towns. We have over at Walpole Island First Nations Indian Reserve. There's a ferry there. There's a bridge in Blue Water, a bridge up in Sarnia. Like this opens the doors up to people from Michigan coming across the bridge, flooding our healthcare system. And the fact of the matter is they talk about hallway medicine, the NDP. Well, we're going to have out the doorway lined up medicine
Going
if this
across the
comes in.
bridge.
Oh, yes, it's the most, in my opinion, it is the most dangerous proposal from any of the parties
that would blossom. It would be healthcare travel.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll see 747s landing at Pearson or at whatever airport filled with people that want to come to Ontario. Because you know what? I don't think a lot of our folks understand what sanctuary province means. It means you're never asked whether you're a citizen. You're not asked for an OHIP card. You're not asked for anything, because then you'll be deemed as being discriminatory. So anyone can come in, go into a hospital and say, fix me. Now, that's what everybody wants to say, fix me. Say everyone should be getting free health care. But you know, it's not free. Every time you give something to somebody from outside, every Canadian citizen is entitled to the max. None of us disagree with that. But when you pay for people that are just here for medicine, and there will be thousands upon thousands.
And that's the thing, Bob, not to interrupt, but that's the concern from the seniors. I know I did, but that's the thing.
We're here
from
to hear Brian.
That's the things from the seniors that I'm hearing in my riding, is they're very concerned with that. And we have a lot more boomers. Our healthcare system is strained right now. And to put this proposal in is the most irresponsible move that I've seen yet in this election, and I wish they would retract it. I wish they would take it away.
Well, no, it's only the NDP doing it, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I know that there's some things that went on in Toronto in council where I've been reading that that they declared the council in Toronto declared Toronto a sanctuary city.
Wait, no, you know what? This is a total setup, folks. Why is that important in this election?
Well,
Brian?
It's important because we've yet to hear a platform come out of the PCs, and everybody's waiting. They're trying to avoid the Hudak moment as far as I'm concerned. You know, in the last election, Hudak came out and announced he was going to lay off 100,000 public service employees, and right now they're hiding the ball, folks. What they're saying they're going to release it at 11:59 on June 6th p.m. And that's the problem, is the voters are going to end up going to vote. They're going to be not informed because the PCs refuse to put their platform out. If you want to put faith in that, do they have a sanctuary province in their platform? I don't know, because they won't release it.
Because you're refusing to bite in my hook here, I'm just going to say it. Doug Ford was on the city council. It was a vote of 37-3. And Doug Ford voted for a sanctuary city in Toronto, folks. That's a fact. That's recorded. He did. And now, I'm sure, I don't know what you can expect. He voted for it back then. Is he going to support it now? Maybe he should come out and show his cards. And just, yeah.
Well, I mean, what else can you honestly say about the future leader of the province? Because we are thinking that perhaps
Andrew Horvath.
Well, like I say,
Bob Yachik?
either and or. Okay, supporting this type of a policy going forward, I think is reckless, reckless
Absolutely.
politics.
It's wrong.
It is
and
wrong.
You know what? The people know what wrong is, and this is wrong. Plain and simple.
Well, it's hijacking the system, and it's pandering to a demographic that's going to end up being vulnerable because they're pushing it. And that's the problem. They're going to destroy the very system that we're trying to preserve.
The most vulnerable will be the seniors.
You've got it. And plus, we need immigrants in Ontario and in Canada. And what they're going to do is destroy a system that takes care of the immigrants that come here. And that's what I'm seeing. There's people who are coming here. They're in line to come here because they want to join the team. We can't just start throwing out free stuff to everybody that wants to come across the border.
You sound heartless, Brian.
Yeah, well,
you sound heartless.
I'll tell you what, Bob. Sometimes the truth hurts, and sometimes people have a different perspective on it. But if they sit down and do it the Trillium way, where we have consensus, we discuss things, which is a change as far as I'm concerned. We don't have a whip sitting there dictating how we deal with things. Mm-hmm. We come to conclusions and sensible steps forward. We might not be moving forward 10 steps at a time, but the steps we're taking are good for the people of Ontario. And this is one issue that I promise. I want to win this election to make sure that that doesn't happen. This is going to put strain on the system, and our seniors are at risk, and we can't afford to have that happen.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. Moving on to the next question, we actually have somebody on Facebook, young lady named Elizabeth Marshall.
Hi, Liz.
Hello, Liz. Has a question that says, hey, what about the PC and NDP votes to sell off Hydro One and increase the rates on electricity? And she also adds, by the way, Toronto is already screaming right now because they can't afford being a sanctuary city.
You know, I have the honor of sitting here with two candidates. And if you've been to the debates like I've been to the debates, what's the number one thing that the NDP love to stand up there and say? They say, well, number one, we're going to buy back Ontario Hydro. That ain't happening. And they complain about the PCs for selling off Hydro One, or Liberals for selling off Hydro One. You know, the fact of the matter is they all sold off Hydro One. And they were fighting they were all, every single one of the parties. And it's on record. We got the vote statements to show that they all voted to sell Hydro One at one time. But apparently during this election, it's inconvenient. It's one of those inconvenient truths, if you may. Each one of them supported selling off Hydro One. And now in this election, they're all pointing fingers at the Liberals who did sell off Hydro One. Meanwhile, the NDP did it and the PCs did it. And now they're just saying, oh, anyone but me. I'm sorry, your track record NDP, your track record PC are just as bad as the Liberals.
Well, I'm finding that, you know, I'm hearing out on the streets and pounding doors that people are starting to think that, and in my opinion, they're right, that group that's up in Queen's Park has each other's back. Doesn't even matter what color the sign is. They're not speaking up, folks. That's the problem with the whip vote. The hydro case is a prime example where a Trillium Party member can stand up, in fact, Jack did, and stand up and scream at the rooftops for the people. And that's the difference. It's time. This election is time to put some of the Trillium Party, hopefully all, but get some of us in there to be the referee. This needs to stop.
And basically say the truth in Queen's Park?
That's it.
Wait.
You'll get kicked out.
You can't handle that truth.
Well, you know what? I think that once we break through, and it happens, we'll break through, and it'll be like a tsunami. Because the fact of the matter is we need to bring truth back to that institution.
Some common sense.
You're right, Bob. And people are tired. They want something new. They want something better and something different. And I believe that we have it. And you just have to elect your Trillium candidate, and you'll see. You know, the local newspaper, Wallsburg Courier Press, actually, Bonnie Turner made a statement. What have you got to lose We're fresh, we're clean, we're honest, and they want to hold us, our feet to the fire. And I'm asking you to do that, absolutely, because what we have in mind is to put you back in power, folks. We got to take it back. They're running us into the ground, and they know they're lined up for power next. Cast that vote for a Trillium Party candidate. Please do it in this election.
Couldn't agree more, and we certainly hope that all of us are as successful as possibly can be in this election and in the next election 18 months from now, after the after the minority government gets in this time around.
And depending on the 407 data scandal, now we might be having a whole slew of new by-elections coming out there.
Absolutely.
Well, depends on how the vote goes, I suspect.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Because right now the mighty are falling pretty fast there, and people are getting pretty. Are people waking up? I don't know.
No, we seem to be, in my opinion, we seem to be expecting corruption and scandal and dirty tricks and wrongdoing by our political candidates. We seem to accept this. We seem to accept this, and it just drives me absolutely crazy. When I start talking politics at work, which theoretically I'm not supposed to do, I get the eye roll.
You just lost your job with that.
Yeah, essentially.
It's live, John. It's live.
Essentially, and I get the eye rolls, and oh yeah, here he goes again. You know, the old guy's talking about politics. Well, like I say, when I was their age, I was probably doing the same thing. But I can certainly tell you that now, knowing what I know about politics, we should not accept this going forward. And it's up to the youth of this great province of ours to wake up and say, no, we expect better and we want better.
I challenge you on that, John. I say it's not just up to the youth. I think it's also up to the 6 people have chosen, 6 people out of 10 that have chosen not to vote. It's time you get back on the wagon. You 6 people out of 10 get back on the wagon and say, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to try and end this cycle of abuse of switching from Liberal to PC to Liberal to PC, because there's no difference, ladies and gentlemen, anymore. You 6 people that don't vote, take 1 hour out of one day, out of the last 4 years of your life, and apply it in this election on June the 7th, and vote for a Trillium Party member just to see what's going to happen. If I speak for myself here, I'll make you so proud that you took that chance, that every year you're going to be voting, and then we're going to get 100%. My goal is 100% of the voters to get out and vote. You've chosen not to vote because you know it doesn't matter. They're just going to get the same people in. You vote for the Trillium Party, it will matter.
And I put that statement out on social media. Excuse me. The fact of the matter is the people that don't vote, that have been beat down, I'm running for you. Gather up somebody you know and come down and vote. Please do it in this election. It means all the difference. This is one of the most important, if not, I would say the most important election in the province in 50 years. But we're running with a 315 plus debt. There's more to it than that. But I use that number. And we're in big trouble. We are in huge trouble. We need to put some people in. I always do almost put it like a referee out on the ice. Picture a game going on with no referee. You have people cheating, chaos, and it just runs wild. The fact of the matter is the Trillium Party are the referees because we don't have a whip standing behind us. We can speak our minds, which is your mind, in Queen's Park. We're permitted to do it. We're encouraged to do it. In fact, it's our policy, and it's something new, and it's something better. And folks, it's going to happen. Like I say, let's make it happen this cycle because we need it to be done.
The other MPPs are afraid to do it. You're not afraid to do it. You're not afraid
I'll
to
do it all day long, Bob.
Well, I know. I've actually tried to tell these guys to do some things in the past, and they usually involve pizza, and they told me no. So I know they can. You know, there was a... John, you want to introduce the video?
Video. This is Brian Everett speaking at... his last one of his.
This was
last
at the
debates,
Wallaceburg Legion,
Legion. Yeah.
And it talks to the whip, vote, and this is pretty much the Trilliums in a nutshell. How we stand in the legislature, and I guess it will be self-explanatory.
You can't say Trillium in a nutshell.
Well, okay. Well, I guess
this is how we are.
To thank everybody for coming. Trillium Party's We have referendum. You get to decide. The people decide. On private members' bills, we bring them back to the public in a vote card. It's different, and it's called democracy for once, and it's something new. Right now, I'm being marginalized by the media. We're being marginalized up in Sarnia-Lambton, and in this riding. It's happening. And it's happening because I think we're scaring the very powers that be because of the way that we would like to bring our political process forward, and that's make you the boss again. We have people from all different walks. We have union people. We have people who own small businesses. We have people who are tired of being stepped on and not listened to. I hear it all the time. Why would I go vote? They don't listen to me anyway. You're right. They don't. They can't. They're not allowed to. That's it. If it doesn't follow the party line and what they want, you're not getting your way. That's a fact. So with the Trillium Party, we have to, by our Constitution, honor the way the constituents vote. So you do have a say. We're something new and we're something better. And we would ask for your support. I'm in Lambton, Kent, Middlesex trying to plant that seed to stop this monster. We're at $315 billion in debt. Where was everybody? How could we be that far in debt in the province of Ontario? You know where they were? They're sitting on their hands because they're being told to. And that's why I'm asking for your vote, Lambton, Kent, Middlesex. Thank you for your time.
I want to applaud that.
Yeah,
Yay.
well done. Yeah.
Good job, Brian. And a speech like that, I think it hit home a lot. It's been getting a lot of hits, and people are seeing it. Are they waking up enough? I'm not sure. Although on June the 8th, that's for sure. You will too.
Well, you know, that was my close in Walsburg for the debate off the cuff. It was really easy for me to do because it's the facts and it's truth. And I'm noticing out and about that that's what the public really likes about me, especially representing the Trilliums, is I tell the truth and I'm honest. I might not be the most refined candidate. I don't holler out the numbers, 30,000 beds here and this and that. But the fact of the matter is I tell the truth and I'm honest. Even if it's not good news, I'll tell the truth. And that's the way we all operate. I know that from both of you guys. Talking to both of you, we're like that.
Well, that's how we all come together, right? This is how all the candidates come together. We have a pretty formidable group of people. None of our candidates, I don't think, has a bag full of money. None of our candidates is getting funded by the corporate Canada, all the bills or anything. You know what we do? We reach into our pockets. We call friends and family. Hey, can you write a check for me? Help me out. And the money I have got that I've received for my campaign, it come from friends and family. Pretty much friends and family. And they're doing it because of me. You know how big of a boost it is? Well, you would know how big of a boost that is because it's happening to you as well. Exactly. It's not corporate Canada says, hey, by the way, I'm going to arrange for 60 of my employees to put $1,200 off of my company credit card onto your into your account, and by the way, you better open up the green belt for building.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't worry though, that's all going to be billed through the 407.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Yeah, you never know. Right? That's the way it's going.
I think it was John there that did a debate there the other day or something like that, and they were complaining about why the PCs weren't there. And I think, John, didn't you say something like?
Well, actually, as what I wanted to say, unfortunately, the deputy leader of the PC showed up, Sylvia Jones, so I could not use what I had planned on saying the entire day, and I kept chuckling every time I thought about it. But I was going to introduce myself and thank obviously the Green Party and other parties for showing up, but unfortunately the only people that actually did show up were the PCs, the Greens, and the Trillium Party. And unfortunately the young lady from the PCs did show up. Had she had not, I would have said, well, and the PCs really wanted to be here, but unfortunately the 29 of them are just stuck on the 407 right now.
So let me get this. So you just spent 1 minute and 20 seconds explaining a 7-second joke.
Yes. Yeah. See, that's because Jordan was doing this. Stretch, right?
You were going to be so good in Parliament, John.
Absolutely.
It's good. You're going to run the filibuster.
I will be the Pierre Poilievre of the Trillium Party. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now getting back with Brian here for Lambton, Kent, Middlesex. We were talking earlier, and there's obviously a part of your electorate that is not necessarily doing as well as, say, some of the others. For instance, the people that are currently on either ODSP or Ontario Works. We had a discussion, and we both, I think, agreed that perhaps there's something that we can do for these people.
Well, it's funny it comes up today because I had a talk with a gentleman from Chatham, Kent. He works a round table, and he deals with people on Ontario Works and on disability. And quite frankly, the province of Ontario, for these people to even get to the starting line, to get out to work, you talk about insurance, the expense of a vehicle, the high cost of fuel. They don't have a chance. And you know, oftentimes you hear people coming down on people on the system. But I know that there are some out there, if not in the majority of them, that want and need a leg up. I understand that there are some problems in the system, but on a whole, to get started, like I say, they can't even get to the starting line because of the expenses. You got e-tests, you've got high insurance, the cost of a vehicle. The people who are out working at the moment have problems paying these bills with the high hydro rates and different things coming in. So yes. I'm a firm believer, and I talked to Phil, was the man's name today, from Chatham, Kent, and I promised him that if I get in, that I will sit down with him and try to come to a solution for this problem and see what we can do. And the fact of the matter is I believe that we should be making some sort of accommodation to try to get these people into jobs and to help them. It's not always blame game for me. We have all walks of life in our ridings, and we need to pay attention to these people. So a lot of them want to get out and get to work. They're being stymied by the high costs, and we need to find a solution for that. And I hope Phil's watching, because I promised him I would mention it, because it's a huge concern, and I want to get that done.
Yeah, maybe, I mean, you know, what we can do, I mean, you know, what WSIB does is they do, you know, work hardening, they do light duties, et cetera, et cetera. But the only problem, from what I understand, with ODSP and Ontario Works is that any money that they actually earn, they end up getting clawed back. So maybe there's something that we can do to prevent that from happening, or at least a certain portion thereof, to give them the opportunity to get back out into the workforce and slowly turn that part-time job into something full-time, getting them off the system.
What we're talking about is hope.
Yes,
we're
absolutely.
back to hope. Eh?
Yeah.
You remember, the problem is too large of a proportion of our population is losing hope. We're hanging on by our fingernails. You know, will we have our job? What's happening with our economy? How are we going to be affected by the states? Am I going to have a job tomorrow to pay for the house? Never mind sending the kids to hockey sports or soccer or getting after school testing. We're running out of hope, and that's what a little bit of what the Trillium Party is all about here. Get good jobs in Ontario, lower the cost of electricity, and we have a really comprehensive plan on that one. Check us out in trilliumontario.ca. We have the single best plan. In fact, when Jack McLaren was thrown out of Parliament on, I forget the day, because he refused to withdraw the truth, that was the day that he was introducing the Affordable Electricity Act.
Yes.
And normally, if you know anything about politics, Parliament, when a private member puts a private member's bill, it usually comes in, everybody says a bunch of polite stuff, and then they squash it. It's never going to see the light of day. Some really good bills have come in, and they've been squashed. Now, this is the Affordable Electricity Bill, introduced by the Fourth Party member, Jack McLaren. So it is going nowhere. They don't like us because we keep asking the pointy questions. So it is going nowhere. It shouldn't have anyways. So, and it was very comprehensive about how we're lowering the electricity. The irony of everything is Jack gets escorted out because he refused to deny or take back what he said regarding the government doing something illegal. And so they wanted to wash hands of it. And right after that, all three parties supported Jack's bill, or the Trillium Party's bill, for the Affordable Electricity Act, and it was headed off to third reading. Mm-hmm. It was unbelievable.
pandemonium.
It's a good bill. It should have been supported, and it was supported by all three parties. We have good ideas. We have the best ideas. Check our policy out.
Sure.
Well, they're forced to. They're forced to. And with the minority government that we're likely going to have, the option of having a Trillium candidate, just like Jack did there, to get them on board, they can't vote against the stuff we're going to bring forward because they're going to expose their own agenda, and we're going to get our own way. And I made that example at a debate in Elvinston on not too long ago that, a vote, people talked about splitting. I hear it all the time. But the fact of the matter is, if you have a Trillium candidate get elected MPP, what better to be the deciding vote on a bill that one of the parties wants? And if they're in power, we can dangle what we want for Lambton, Kent, Middlesex in their face and say, you know what? I'll give you that vote, but you're going to widen this road, or you're going to give funding for these projects.
You're going to keep the hospital in Wallaceburg.
You're going to keep the hospital in Wallaceburg open. You're going to give us a 5-year plan, and you're going to put it in writing.
We don't want gifts. What we want is a plan that says
right.
you care for our community.
We want
that's the minimum you should be getting.
That's what I'm saying, and that option is there if you vote for me. That's the other perspective, and it seems to slip through the cracks. The fact is you have a huge amount of power being on the outside of the big three and sitting in Queen's Park. You just do.
You just got them wound up. Way to go.
Well, I am a little wound up because
I
that's what I want to do for the people of Lambton, Kent, Middlesex.
Can I offer another scenario?
Here we go.
that,
This is
Bob?
what you need in Lambton, Kent, Middlesex, right there.
Keep them there. Oh
Yes.
my God. so the Trillium Party. Let's give another example. Let's say you elect Bob Yachik, because I don't want everyone voting for him. So let's say you elect Bob Yachik in Newmarket, Aurora. So they say, oh, well, I don't want to throw my vote away. I don't want to split the vote. My gosh, folks, if you get Bob Yachik sitting in provincial parliament in Newmarket, Aurora, right now, you all like Doug Ford. Well, I'll take that back. Initially, Doug Ford was the person that it looks like he's the heir apparent. As soon as he got become leader, first thing he did was withdrew his promise of private sectoring the marijuana. I don't care whether you like it or not. The point is he withdrew the support for the private sector distribution of it and said we're going to the LZPO model. The point is he changed. And then it was 10 days later when he said, oh, and by the way, sex education curriculum, which I promised we were going to withdraw, is at the bottom of the totem pole in Ontario. When something's at the bottom of the totem pole in Ontario and the province has 2,000 things wrong with it, it's never seeing light of day. So let's suppose you vote for Bob Yachik and I'm in Parliament. Now you have all the PCs saying in order to get these votes, yeah, we're going to withdraw the sex education curriculum and we're going to put something more reasonable and less invasive on parents' rights. And so let's say Bob Yachik now. It'll never come to power. It'll never come up with these other three parties, ever, because they're so afraid of the social ramifications of putting it out there. What happens when Bob Yachik puts his private member's bill out there and says, this is exactly what you guys promised. I'm putting that bill out there. Now you guys have to or get off the pot, and you're going to have to vote for it, or you're going to have to show your colors and not vote for it.
Exactly.
And now you've just seen the power of the Trillium Party. We're going to show their hand, going to force their hand, and I'm going to suggest to you this. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to have to look, a lot of MPPs that are going to have to look in the mirror and say, maybe this is one of the ones I'm going to have to support despite where my party goes.
Well,
or maybe the party boss will order his party whip to say, oh, just give this one to them. And that's what we want.
Exactly.
Trillium policies. If you look back at go to our website, trilliumontario.ca, and you look at our policy page, you're going to see all these policies. And they're going to seem very similar to one of the parties that has a policy out there now. They're very common sensey. Now, the difference is this. Their policy was created 8 weeks ago, six weeks ago. Our policy has been there for 3.5 years. We stand behind what we say. We've never wavered on it, and we're consistent. If we mean what we say, and we say what we mean. Whereas they have just invented a whole new policy. It was not through grassroots. It was not from the caucus. It was from one man and the people that sit at the table that no one's allowed to talk to. The backroom people that I'm referring to. And you know, anyone that can make policy that quickly in order to get what they want, and who has already demonstrated in 3 different items, even before election, that he's willing to throw it away, I suggest that he is willing to throw the entire thing away at his own, whatever suits him, right after he gets elected, right after you give him the mandate to do what he wants, don't do it. Support someone different. 6 people out of 10. Support the Trillium Party. Wake up, get out there and support the Trillium Party.
Yeah.
Right on.
I see on the people that are watching that we actually have a visitor from Cornwall, Ontario. Welcome to Carolyn Davis Waldron. I see her name up on the screen. And getting back to what we're doing here with Brian, you're a proud member of the Ironworkers. I understand.
Yeah, International Association of Bridge, Structural, and Ornamental Iron Workers. Yes, I am.
Holy small! How do you fit that on a business card? Hey, this is a good chance for the leader of the Trillium Party to say we have all across, our candidates are from right across every spectrum. Yeah, and you're a strong union member, right?
And I am, and I've been provided. I would have to say I've worked hard, and I've paid my dues, and I've went out and about. I went through my apprenticeship, and I've been up in the air and connecting, not so much doing too much connecting, but I've been all over the country. And the iron workers have helped me to do that. So I do have, I'm very loyal to the iron workers and the trade because they've given me the opportunity, and I see the good they do in their training facilities and things like that. You know, sometimes in the province of Ontario, the unions, the trade unions and the public service unions, they get painted under the same brush, and you know, sometimes one or the other will mess up, and it reflects on the other ones. And the fact of the matter is there's a time and place. Like I can recall some times when we've had to kind of pull back on our negotiations, and
we're in tough times right now.
Well,
right?
we are, Bob, and our guys at the Ironworkers, I've been in votes where we need to maybe beef up our pension plan, or you know, we're expecting a raise and we move it somewhere else, and I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that from the other unions of the members, but sometimes the top brass, they just don't understand. They don't get it. They go for the gusto, and what it does is it causes disruption in the province. In fact, it works against what the union members are trying to get done oftentimes. And it is a hard, I guess, a ditch to crawl into for me, because the fact of the matter is I do know some people who work in the public service unions that do sometimes say, you know what, maybe it's a little bit too much at this time with the debt we're in, but they're forced, and they get, the representation pushes it.
You know what? We have too much of this. Everybody seems to be forced to do something.
Exactly.
We got to get rid of this. We got to remember that we're individuals, and we can do as we will. We should be allowed to raise our children the way we want to raise our children. We should be allowed to speak up for our job rights or not job rights. For job rights, we should be allowed to vote for whatever we want in provincial parliament.
That's true.
Yeah. It's a fact. And you know what, Brian, you stepped up to the plate because you're in a strange spot, right?
It is. And you know, and I am pro union. I am. And you know, when I got vetted by the party, and I can remember, John, talking to you, and I told you flat out that I would not waver in my support for my union. But the fact of the matter is we have a group of people that operate and run the union that I'm in, at least in my local, and I will speak for that because I don't get into the upper echelon of it. But my business manager is fair, and I look at it that way. There's a lot of people in the other unions outside of the one that I'm in that are fair as well. But there are some things that go on, just like in private business,
just like in politics,
it's just like in politics
like in
and
media.
Anything else where people are people want to take more and more and more. Yeah. And sometimes you've got to step back and say, you know, is this really for the good right now? Doesn't mean you can't go for it in another 4 years or whatever when we get things under control. But the thing is I believe that the public service employees unions, they get coerced all the time into voting for certain parties, and the big donations come in. And you want to know what? They let them down every time. If you look at what goes on, they let them down.
It never fails.
To me, it's better to stay out of it and force the agenda after the election and use your stroke there than try to stack the...
like Doug Ford right there.
Well, that's the deal. To me, it is, because you now they've removed the union entity and donations, but they've got a third-party system running through. We all know
Ontario Proud. Oh my gosh!
Well,
they're doing surveys, so they ask. Ontario Proud is a third-party supporter for the PC.
Yes,
right?
they are.
And so they're calling up. I get these. Listen, folks. I say I don't lie, but I lied. Because what happens is this. Whenever I get the surveyors calling up, I always say that I'm for one of the other parties because I want to see what they're up to all the time, right? And so basically, none of your business. They ask me how I'm going to vote. I say by secret ballot. You know, that's how I vote. But folks, if we could maybe move this show on to a little bit of a more maybe entertaining section here about stuff that's happened on the campaign trail. We're all candidates. We've all got to have a few odd, wild, weird stories that we've dealt with here. Well, why don't we start off with our host?
Well, I guess really in this particular election, and I've run municipally back in 2014, but you know, for me, running in an election is really the most fun, and the best part of it is going out and door knocking. And I can't really say that anything strange or weird and wonderful has happened, other than just being so far away from my car where all my paraphernalia is, and running out of flyers and having to walk all the way back to the car.
Oh, you sound like such an old man right there.
Yeah,
all the way back to your car.
Uphill 40 miles and then downhill 40 miles.
And then at the bottom of a lake, you had to crawl on hands and knees.
Absolutely. But other than that, I say it's most enjoyable just getting out and speaking to the people in the riding and seeing what's bothering them. And I've already taken on, I think, a couple of projects after the election to help some people with some things that may not necessarily be involved in politics, but has certainly to do with the community in Brampton. So that's
your fun and entertaining story.
That is unfortunately my life in a nutshell right there. And I know I said nutshell again, but that's unfortunately what's happening with me right now.
I can beat those. I have two incredible, fabulous stories.
Over to you, Bob.
Campaigning. Some of them I'm not telling you on the air. But okay, we got the lascivious story. How's this one? Yes, I said lascivious in a sentence. And so I'm out canvassing, and this was quite a while back. So I'm out canvassing, and so this person answers the door, and it was a guy. He had no clothes on. Well, this is now I'm kind of a scrappy doodle kind of guy. And I said, okay, you dare to stand there in front of me? I'm going to dare to do my entire speech straight face to you. So I do my entire speech straight face to him. And I say, I'm hoping I never look down for a second. It's the most eye contact I've ever made with an individual while canvassing. Okay, you think this is pretty good? This is kind of fun and stuff like that, because he's just, and he was playing it as though he had it was like the Emperor's New Clothes thing, so right. And so then his wife, well, I assume his wife, she comes around the corner as well, and I'm sorry, I broke eye contact. Anyway, okay, you win. You got it. Thank you. Clearly, you guys are busy. I'm out of here. But just the way we actually went at that run for about 45 seconds, a minute or so, that was pretty good. And then we had, then I've been having this huge problem. I'm getting stonewalled in Newmarket, Aurora, and it's really bumming me out a whole lot, to be honest with you. But our local paper, which is extraordinarily powerful, a media presence in our town, Newmarket, Aurora. Anyway, they keep writing in the paper, Trillium Party did not respond to these requests for interviews. And it's really upsetting me, because I've gone through, I never received a request. So, and it's been going on. I haven't had a single debate request in Newmarket, Aurora. How many of you had? How many of you had?
That
Zero.
is
I'm the leader of the party. I'm also going against Christine Elliott, and I haven't had a single leadership debate request in Newmarket, Aurora. This is wrong, 100% wrong. So anyway,
it's definitely not democracy. That's
the Aurora Chamber of Commerce, to be fair with them, what they did is they invited me to have a sit-down thing. Debates aren't debates anymore, so we all had all the candidates sat down, answered a bunch of questions. But the Newmarket Chamber of Commerce just said, you're not allowed, screw you, and a horse you rode in on. They made up some wacky excuses or stuff. First guy I talked to, no, it's in our policies that we only have the top three parties in. Well, of course, I look at the policies, and that's the most ridiculous statement he ever said. You don't have policies like that. You just, so anyway, but then they said they made an amendment and said, no, only the top three parties are allowed, or if they have a sitting member, or if they have sitting member. So I go, well, we have a sitting member in a party. Problem. Oh, I mean a recognized member. So technically, we were recognized as an independent, Jack McLaren, because we don't have 8 members. Hey, the Liberals might be in the same trouble next time, folks. So watch yourself.
We hope they are.
Yeah.
So, anyways, then she said, "Well, if you can produce proof that you're recognized fourth party," so we were recognized by the government.
Mm-hmm.
Their members, their one of the cabinet minister, I believe it was, recognized us as the fourth party. So, send that to them. Bob, you're just not coming in.
Mm-hmm.
That was all I said. So, and this is the result of what happened that day. I'm a scrapper.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? You need a scrapper for you in Queen's Park. Otherwise, you're just going to get bowled over.
And Brian, any interesting?
I think they're playing Bob's video.
Hi, I'm Bob
Watch this.
Yachik, leader of the Trillium Party of Ontario, as well as running as candidate in Newmarket Aurora. We just left the Newmarket Chamber of Commerce debate, where we were forbidden to speak. You know who was invited? The PCs were invited. Christine Elliott was invited. The NDP were invited. Oh, over here we have the Liberals were invited to speak. Folks, one of the things we're all ready for in Canada is this: freedom and democracy, equality. When you're having information hidden from you, that's not right. In Newmarket Aurora, we got to make something different. We got to make something better. You deserve it. You deserve to have a choice. But when you're not informed of the choice, it's not right. Particularly from an organization that professes to be fair and equal, like the Newmarket Chamber of Commerce. That's not right. We got to demand better. Vote for us, support us, and we're going to bring back your voice, not the leader's voice, not the party caucus voice, but your voice to provincial parliament. Let's make a difference. Vote for something different, something better. Thank you.
You know, that was an amazing morning. We went in there, and it was we went in there, and I went right up to the stage there and started filming a live an interview thing like that. And it was very uncomfortable because I called the chamber right out, and I said, you know, the job of a chamber is to always look for that better mousetrap. Every business is to look for the better mousetrap. Mm-hmm. And if you're having information filtered and not given to you, not even shown the catalog for the better mousetrap, you'll never make a good decision. Now, I was not so shocked by the chamber not inviting me, but I was truly shocked about the membership saying that's okay. They are business people that should be struggling every day to try and make ends meet. Business people who usually should respect inclusiveness and that sort of thing. So I was a little bit surprised at that. You went to bat for me.
Well, I did, Bob. I phoned up the chamber, and I tore a strip off them, to tell you the truth. But I was upset, and I watched like our leader being marginalized. Like, let's face it, Bob, this election, they have went out of their way to, and it's almost like you try to cut the head off the snake. And it's that theory, and it's hard on every candidate when the leader's getting marginalized. And you know, at that day,
it makes us stronger.
Well,
right.
it does, but at the same time, you're my leader, and I have respect for you. And you know, I often say you're the hardest working man in Ontario politics. And Bob, I got to say that I do feel that way, because I know running just in Lambton, Kent, Middlesex, I'm walking dead on my feet half the time, folks, trying to get out there and do what we're doing in this election. I can just imagine the stuff you've been through. And that particular day, that was the end of the fuse for me. And I did call the chamber, and I did blast them, and they deserved it, because the fact of the matter is I know you're a good man, and I know what our policies are, and they should have had the Trillium leader in your own riding up on that stage for the day.
What did they say?
They pretty much accused me of being. They called me just like Yasik, is what the statement I got, and I said, well, thank you. And that's the way I looked at it, because the fact of the matter is you deserve to be there, and the people deserve to have the Trillium people be able to speak. It's like they're trying to hide it. Like I had the same thing happen to me in my hometown. Right. I'm going to leave the radio station out of it, the number, because they actually did end up inviting me. But I got to thank Trevor, Lori, Brian, BJ, Mike out there. Thank you so much. I had so many people come to bat for me. Some of my relatives, the social media attacked the radio station.
Well, you were locked out. They locked you out of the radio.
They did, and they refused to invite me. I kept calling, and I asked them why, and there was never an answer. They put me in a spot like I was nothing. And
Like you're supposed to sit at the little kids'
well,
table
yeah,
at the
that,
Thanksgiving
it just seemed like that to me. And the fact of the matter is people who know me in the riding, in fact, probably voting for me for the reason that I do stand my ground, and that's part of my personality. I've always been like that. But I'll tell you,
a fighter and a scrapper.
I'm a fighter and a scrapper.
Welcome
when it comes
to the Trillium Party.
Thanks, Bob.
That's
When
it.
it comes to the truth, but you know what? The amount of gratitude I have for the people who went and had my back. They're probably the same people who are voting for me in this election. Thank you so much for that, because I got a call at 6:30 in the morning, and then a statement on my Facebook that asked me to please call them off, and I did that. I went back and I said thank you for accepting me in the debate, but it was because of the people, and that's exactly what we're about. It's a group, and we get consensus, and it's a team. And that's what we're about. And it worked. I proved it right
and
there.
basically, the population rose up a little bit in your area and said, hey, well, if they're not going to invite you, we're not going to support the people, support the advertisers.
Exactly. And there was some statements
nothing about power like that.
Well, there was statements online. In fact, thank you, Kevin, for that, because there was some statements online that were to that nature. And it pulled me through and got me in. I found that I made some statements, even in the video you've seen earlier. I made some statements about being marginalized. I upset the media. Some of the people in that room were very upset with me. But the fact of the matter is when you think they're not going to do it, they do. And as a candidate running for MPP, you want to do the right thing. You want people to hear you. And when you're working against a monster like the media, folks, I'm telling you, you have to be loud. You have to force your way in. Sometimes it takes a real thick skin. I got the thick skin. Obviously, I'm a union iron worker. I've got thick skin, and I use that to get in there, and I will every time. I've got a debate tomorrow night in Chatham for the Chamber of Commerce. I'm in that one. The Strathroy Chamber of Commerce. They invited me right off the hop. So there's been some.
Well, so good job on them.
Well, yes,
doing their job right.
Awesome, and we had a great debate there. And then the National Farmers Union and the OFA, they invited me as well. The Lambton Federation of Agriculture invited me. So I've been invited to a bunch, but there was the odd one there. And I find it's mostly heavy media, like radio or TV, that are trying to marginalize.
Oh, how about the CBC? You know, so here, we're doing our best. We have done such phenomenal things. We broke almost every record going the Trillium Party, right? So we should be all over the news everywhere, but we're nowhere. So CBC finally calls me up. So, oh my God, CBC called me. Great. Hello, Bob Yachik speaking. Hi, this is, I forget her name, from CBC. I was wondering if you have the telephone number for that person in Barrie, I forget the names, that was in the news earlier, one of Patrick Brown's people. And they go, seriously? I've waited for how many months to have CBC calling me, and you're calling me for a telephone number? You guys suck. So just for the record, we're going after CBC right now because they excluded us in the leadership race. So this was great. So... stories from the campaign trail. So the CBC people, the Green Party, the Liberals were trying to get the Green Party into the big leader debate, and they want that because it's just strategy. The Liberals will suck some of the PC votes off, and Liberals might be able to get a better foothold. And so the CBC says, nope, can't have the Greens because they don't have a sitting member. Hold on a minute. The Trillium Party has a sitting member. Oh, we forgot about them because they're so busy hammering the Greens, right? So... and you don't have, you're not running candidates in all the ridings. Well, wait a minute. Neither are the other parties. This was way back, right? A month ago or so. No. Your candidate wasn't elected as a Trillium Party. So that's where they really broke the rules, right? Because now it's a human rights issue. Because now they're nailing you with freedom of association. It's a Westminster tradition. You can cross the floor, whatever you want, if you have an ethical dilemma there. Churchill did it 3 times.
Well, let's hold them to account. Let's hold them to account.
We're holding them to account. We'll see where it goes. They have more lawyers than we do. We have some.
Yeah.
But then I brought up, well, wait a minute. That can't be so because if I recall correctly, when the Canadian Alliance joined with the Progressive Conservatives, they formed the Conservative Party of Canada, not a single Conservative Party member was elected as a Conservative
Exactly.
Party member, and you let them into the debate. So every part of their argument. Well, can I talk about one more thing here? Signs are a big issue in every election. You know, and it's the Elections Act says that you're allowed to put up signs in any area. Back in the olden days, you used to nail them to the post, you know, the street posts and things like that. And then they started putting signs up, pouting them in and stuff like that. It's part of making sure everybody hits free election. So making sure the information's out there. So it's just simply the law. So our town of Newmarket made a rule. You can't put election signs up if you unless you pay a $500 non-refundable deposit. That's not a deposit, folks. That's a permission ticket. That is a permission. So $500. So they took down so many of my signs because it's extortion. It's against the law to do it. Section 3 something or other, or I forget the Elections Act, forbids it. So now, that's me. I live in Newmarket, Aurora. That's just 2 townships. What about some of our candidates in the northern areas? How many ridings do you straddle? Or how many townships do you straddle in here?
There's 3 or 4 in there. It's a huge area. My riding's the size of Prince Edward Island.
Yeah, and some ridings have 5, 6, 7 townships in it to try and get the $100,000 quota. What if a 100,000 person quota? So what happens with those people? Each one's asking for $500, $600. Roman Evtuk and King Vaughan is being extorted. Yes, I'm using the word extorted out of I think it's $1,200 or $1,300 just to be able to put signs up. That's against the rules. And it's another example how you keep the big 3 in. You know what? If all of us, and we've had to pay it, and we did because we're scrappers. But what about the poor persons that can't afford it? And you know, because you just waste that much money for the right to run. If as soon as we do that on a regular basis, I can promise you the attitude that they're exhibiting there will probably, they could raise it to $10,000, which would ensure their favorite people, either the PCs or Liberals, are the only ones able to get elected.
That's totally off the realm of democracy
and illegal. On top of it, it's illegal, and we're going to call them out on it. And you know,
that's a good thing.
And I broached no quarter when I went into town there and started doing my. What did the chamber person in my screaming and shouting? You know, you have to stand up to these people. You have to stand up to bullies that do whatever they have to suppress you. That's what the Trillium Party does. Why don't we just give a wrap up from each of us? And
Sure. But one last thing there, Bob. In spite of the problems that you had there in Newmarket, I understand you're going back there on Sunday for the street festival.
Oh,
or sorry, that's Aurora Street Festival.
Aurora Street Festival. You know what? Never mind just coming out to see me. There's the Aurora Street Festival. It's one of the biggest. It's going to be 10, 15, 20,000 people, maybe more, come down Aurora, a young street in Aurora. They shut the street down. It's fantastic. That's Sunday at about, I think it's 10 o'clock it starts or something like that. Check it out and come on down. I'll be there. I'll be handing out I don't know, something, maybe 407 passes. That's not true.
We only have 29 though. So,
so anyway, come on down and experience it and enjoy it. You know, your family will love it. And I forgot to ask, we were talking earlier before the show, and you have some polling numbers for your riding. Ryan, what are they? Come on, brag.
The polling numbers. All I can tell you is I don't want to jinx myself.
Stop. Forget I spoke.
Yeah.
I don't want to jinx myself. I don't, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm overwhelmed with support. And like I say, I told you and I promised you, and I'm going to stick to this, that I expect to win in Lambton, Kent, Middlesex. I've been trying my best and I'm putting my neck out there. Not really, but I'm trying to stretch it out to get past and finish this race off in the best way I can. But I told you privately that I'm here to stay with the Trillium Party, and I mean that. And I want to let the people know that as well, that if we get in a minority situation, I'm going to come back, folks, whether it's as the incumbent or whether it's to try again. So
you said that so threatening.
Well, we're not done. We're not done yet in Lambton, Kent, Middlesex, and I'm telling you that right now. In fact, the amount of support that I've gotten, like I say, I have people. I had around 18 phone calls the day that early votes opened, telling me that they cast a ballot for me. Some of the people I didn't even know. So I feel I'm doing very well, and how can I not? With the with the platform we have, and when people see it, that's when they come over, and that's what I've been trying to do.
So basically, you're saying quit being sheep, follow something that's really good, honorable, and will make a true difference and allow your voice to be heard.
Exactly, and in my riding, people are pretty spunky, and they recognize things. A lot of rural people, and they see it, and they know it, and they also know that they can trust me, and that I will be their voice, and I will, and that's the way it is. That's the way I am, and whatever the issues are, I'll bring them forward, and we'll do it together, and that's basically where I stand on it.
Ditto.
John's a person of a lot of words.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Check us out, folks, on Trillium, Ontario, TrilliumOntario.ca. Check check what we're all about. Check our platform out. See how you can get involved, and help us help you. I can tell you, I think I can speak for everyone here. You will never find anyone that's going to stand up for your rights, stand up for what's best for your community, any more than the 3 people here and the other Trillium candidates. We're going to make a difference. We're going to make you proud that you took a chance on us. Support us. We'll support you. Thank you very much for this evening, folks. I'm Bob Yachik.
I'm John Grant, your candidate from Brampton South.
And I'm Brian Everett, Lambton, Kent, Middlesex. Thanks for watching, and hope you get out there and vote for your Trillium candidate.
Have a good night, everyone.
Support us. We'll support you. Good night.